For nearly 2 months, an entire country became emotionally attached to one whale. News helicopters followed him daily. Crowds stood on freezing beaches just to watch him breathe. Millions of people online tracked his movements in real time. Rescue teams worked hard around the clock trying to save him. And every single day, the situation got worse. The whale's name was Timmy. A young humpback whale that somehow swam into the Baltic Sea and became trapped near the German coast in one of the strangest and most controversial wildlife stories Europe has seen in years. At first, people thought it would be a simple rescue. Just guide the whale back out to sea. Easy, right? But nobody realized how complicated and heartbreaking the situation would become. Because by the end of the story, people weren't just arguing about how to save Timmy, they were arguing whether saving him was even possible at all. The story began in early March 2026. Fishermen and coastal residents near Wismar Bay in northern Germany started reporting sightings of a humpback whale unusually close to shore. Now, humpback whales appearing near Germany isn't completely unheard of, but the Baltic Sea is incredibly dangerous for large whales. And here's why. The Baltic is shallow, very shallow in some areas. It also has low salt levels compared to the Atlantic Ocean. For a massive ocean animal built for deep water migration, the Baltic can basically become a maze. There are sandbanks everywhere. Shipping traffic, fishing equipment, loud underwater noise, and confusing coastlines. Marine biologists believe Timmy likely entered through the Danish Straits while following schools of fish like herring. At first, he probably didn't realize he was trapped. But once he moved deeper into the Baltic Sea, turning around became much harder, especially because humpback whales rely heavily on underwater navigation and sound. And in shallow water, those systems don't work the same way. At first, people were excited. Videos of the whale spread online immediately. People called it magical. Tourists gathered on beaches hoping to spot him. But experts became worried very quickly because Timmy wasn't behaving normally. Instead of continuing through deeper waters, he repeatedly entered shallow areas near sandbanks. Several times, he became partially stranded. Not fully beached, but stuck long enough that rescuers had to intervene. And every time he struggled to free himself, he burned massive amounts of energy. That's important because whales need enormous energy reserves to survive, especially young whales. Every failed escape attempt weakened him further. Then things got worse. Drone footage started showing visible skin damage. His body had scratches and lesions. Some reports claimed parts of fishing rope or netting were tangled near his mouth. Marine vets also noticed he was becoming thinner and slower. Instead of powerful dives, Timmy began making shorter movements and surfacing more frequently, which usually means exhaustion. Timmy was very exhausted. Once authorities realized Timmy probably wouldn't escape alone, rescue teams moved in. And this is where the story became chaos. Because nobody fully agreed on what should happen. Some experts argued the whale should be left alone. Their reasoning was simple. Human interference could stress him even more. Whales are extremely sensitive animals. Too many boats, noises, and people nearby can actually make them panic. Others believed immediate intervention was necessary before Timmy became permanently stranded. So rescue attempts began. At first, they tried the least invasive methods. Boats attempted to gently guide him toward deeper water. Rescue crews created sound barriers to encourage him to move in the right direction. Drones tracked his movement from above. Volunteers monitored beaches day and night. And sometimes, it actually worked. For brief moments, Timmy would head toward open water. People celebrated online. News headlines claimed he might survive. And then suddenly, he'd turn around again and swim right back into danger. By April, Timmy had become national news across Germany. Every major broadcaster was covering the story daily. Social media completely exploded. TikToks about Timmy gained millions of views. Live streams from the coast ran for hours. People started emotionally attaching themselves to the whale. Some people even drove across the country just to see him once before he escaped. And the emotional reactions became intense. Because the longer Timmy struggled, the more people started viewing him almost like a person. Not just an animal, a fighter, a survivor. Meanwhile, experts were becoming increasingly pessimistic. Marine biologists warned that prolonged exposure to shallow water could seriously damage his organs and muscles. You see, whales are designed to have water supporting their body weight. When they spend too much time near shallow areas, pressure on their organs increases dramatically. It can slowly kill them even if they appear alive from the outside. And that's when the debate becomes ugly. Suddenly, everyone had an opinion. Some accused authorities of moving too slowly. Others accused rescuers of treating the whale like a publicity event. One side believed every effort should be made to save Timmy no matter the cost. The other side believed humans were prolonging the suffering of a dying animal. And honestly, both sides had valid arguments, because by this point, Timmy's condition was visibly getting worse. But emotionally, people couldn't let go. Nobody wanted to watch the whale die live on camera after following the story for weeks. Then came the most ambitious plan yet. A rescue mission so massive, it sounded almost impossible. A privately funded operation stepped in with an extraordinary proposal. Instead of trying to guide Timmy out naturally, they would physically transport him closer to the North Sea. The plan reportedly cost around 1.5 million euros. First, excavators dug channels through sandbanks to create a safer route. Then, rescuers prepared a huge floating water-filled transport container attached to a barge. The idea was to guide Timmy inside safely without injuring him. This alone was incredibly risky because a stressed humpback whale can panic violently. One wrong movement could injure both the whale and rescuers. For hours, teams worked carefully around him. Boats surrounded the area. Vets monitored his condition constantly. Crowds gathered along the shore, watching everything unfold like a live movie. And somehow, it worked. Timmy finally entered the transport container. People cheered from beaches. Videos of the moment spread across the internet instantly. For the first time in weeks, It genuinely felt like Timmy might survive. The barge slowly traveled north toward deeper waters near Denmark and the North Sea. The entire operation was monitored closely. Then, finally, the gates opened. Timmy swam free. At first, the release looked successful. He surfaced normally, he moved independently, and rescue crews celebrated what seemed like an incredible victory. Headlines called it miraculous. But behind the scenes, many scientists were still deeply concerned, because even if the rescue succeeded technically, Timmy's body may already have been failing. Weeks of exhaustion, stress, shallow water exposure, and possible malnutrition had likely done serious damage internally. Some marine experts openly criticized the operation afterward, not because they didn't care about the whale, but because they believed the rescue delayed an inevitable death. Then, another problem appeared. The tracking device attached to Timmy reportedly stopped transmitting reliably. Nobody knew where he was anymore. Less than 2 weeks later, Danish authorities received reports of a dead whale near the island of Anholt. At first, nobody wanted to believe it was Timmy. But when officials examined the body, they found the tracking equipment. It was him. After weeks of international attention, after one of Europe's largest marine rescue efforts, Timmy was dead. Reports said the whale was found only around 70 kilometers from where he had been released, which made the ending even more devastating, because he had come so close. Almost immediately, the arguments returned. Did rescuers save Timmy temporarily and give him a chance? Or did humans prolong the suffering of an animal that was already dying? To this day, people still debate it online. But one thing is undeniable. Timmy's story affected millions of people, not because he was famous, not because he was unique, but because for weeks, the entire world watched humans desperately try to save something fragile and helpless against nature. And in the end, nature still won. Now, I came across Timmy's story because it was recently on German news everywhere, and at first, I thought it was just another animal rescue story. But the more I followed it, the sadder and more complicated it became. Timmy was this young humpback whale trapped in the Baltic Sea, and the entire country seemed emotionally invested in whether he would survive or not. And the more I watched, the more divided everything became. Scientists argued that all rescue attempts may have only prolonged his suffering and added more stress to an already exhausted animal. But at the same time, the media attention was massive, and that pressure pushed the government and rescue teams to keep taking action because millions of people were watching and hoping for a miracle. That's what makes Timmy's story so complicated to me. Nobody involved seemed cruel or careless. Everyone wanted to help. But in the end, it raises this uncomfortable question of whether humans were truly helping Timmy, or whether we just couldn't emotionally accept letting nature take its course.